The old brass bell above the entrance let out a harsh clang as the door swung open, letting in a slice of late evening sunlight and a gust of dusty wind from the highway. The sound was sharp enough to cut through the chatter of the regulars, and one by one, heads turned toward the doorway. He filled it, a mountain of a man. Leather vest stretched across his chest, tattoos crawling down both arms like dark vines. His beard was thick and wild, streaked with silver, but his eyes were the real problem. Cold, assessing, the kind of eyes that scanned a room not for seats but for weaknesses. The biker stepped inside with the slow confidence of someone who had never lost a fight. His boots hit the floorboards with deep, deliberate thuds that made the glasses on the shelves tremble. A few men quickly looked away, others stiffened, recognizing the emblem stitched across the back of his jacket. The Viper's mark, a coiled serpent with its fangs bared, a gang symbol that carried a reputation larger than any man wearing it. The bar, usually alive with laughter, clinking glasses, and country music, seemed to shrink around him. Even the jukebox faded out mid-chorus, as if it understood the shift in the room's temperature. Behind the counter, Sam the bartender wiped his hands on a worn towel, jaw tightening. He'd seen men like this before, and none of their stories ever ended well. Across the room, Lena was refilling a couple's iced tea glasses. She paused, her shoulders tensing at the sudden silence. Slowly, she turned her head. Their eyes met, the biker's stare unblinking and heavy, hers cautious but steady. Lena wasn't the type to get rattled in front of customers. She'd worked in rough places before, and she knew how to read danger. She could feel it now like static in the air. But she still forced a small, professional smile and walked toward him, gripping her notepad tightly enough for her knuckles to turn white. "Evening," she said, voice even but soft. "Can I get you something?" The biker didn't answer right away. He let his gaze drag over every inch of the bar before returning to her face. Then he leaned back, stretching out like he owned the place, the leather of his vest creaking. "Yeah," he said, his voice a gravelly rumble. "Start by standin' right there. Not a request, a test." And the entire bar watched to see what Lena would do next. Lena turned to jot down his order, anything to avoid the weight of his stare, but the biker's hand shot out with startling speed, clamping around her wrist. His grip was like iron. The notepad slipped from her fingers and thudded onto the floor. A sharp gasp rose from a nearby table. "Hold up," the biker growled, yanking her a step closer. His breath smelled of cigarettes and gasoline, and she could feel the heat of his body radiating from behind his leather vest. "Didn't say you could walk away." Lena tried to pull free, keeping her voice neutral. "Sir, let go. You're making a scene." His lips curled into an ugly smirk. "Good. Maybe someone'll finally notice you're worth looking at." Several regulars exchanged uneasy glances. Sam, the bartender, picked up the phone under the counter, his fingers hovering over the keypad, but he hesitated when the biker turned his head slightly, as if sensing any movement behind him. Lena's pulse hammered in her throat. She didn't fear many things, but this man was unpredictable, and unpredictability was the worst kind of danger. "Let go," she repeated, firmer now. The biker chuckled. A low, mocking sound. "Maybe I wanna see what you're hiding under there." Before she could react, he reached with his free hand and hooked 2 fingers into the collar of her shirt. The fabric pulled tight at her neck. "Don't," Lena said sharply, panic flashing in her eyes. But he didn't stop. With one violent jerk, he ripped downward. The sound was loud, louder than it should have been. A harsh, tearing crack that echoed through the bar and silenced every whisper. Her shirt split open, buttons flying across the floor. A couple of them bounced off a barstool with tiny metallic pings. Lena stumbled back, arms instinctively folding across her chest. Her heart slammed against her ribs, her breath caught halfway between fear and fury. "Now that's better," the biker sneered. But then he froze. Completely. His face drained of color. His mouth remained open, but no sound came out. The smirk vanished, replaced by something no one expected from a man like him. Fear. Across the bar, chairs scraped. Conversations halted mid-sentence. The jukebox, as if sensing the shift, cut off entirely. The biker's hand fell away as he stared, stunned, at what his own violence had just revealed beneath the torn fabric. Lena stood straighter, no longer hiding her chest, and the entire bar held its breath. For a moment, No one moved. No one even breathed. The ripped edges of Lena's shirt trembled against her skin, fluttering slightly with each shaky exhale. Pinned just above her heart, gleaming coldly under the flickering neon sign, was a silver badge. Not decorative, not cheap costume metal, real, government-issued, a bold emblem stamped in the center, with the unmistakable weight of authority. Federal Undercover Task Division, Special Agent. The biker's eyes widened a fraction, then another. His pupils shrank. His jaw twitched as if trying to form words and failing. The fearless, arrogant predator from minutes ago suddenly looked like prey caught in its own trap. Lena straightened her back, her posture shifting from cornered waitress to something entirely different. There was no tremble now. No meekness. Only a chilling calm that blanketed the entire room. She met the biker's stare head-on. "You just assaulted a federal officer," she said, her voice slicing through the silence like a blade. Somebody in the far booth cursed under their breath. Another man dropped his beer bottle, the glass cracking as it hit the floor. Even the overhead fan seemed to hesitate mid-rotation. The biker swallowed hard. His tough guy swagger evaporated. Sweat started to gather under the edges of his bandana. His mind was racing, calculating, panicking, trying to understand how he'd just ripped open the shirt of someone who wasn't supposed to be here, wasn't supposed to be anyone. Lena took a slow, deliberate step toward him. "Name," she said. He didn't answer. Her tone dropped lower, rougher. "Name." This time, he flinched. Behind the bar, Sam exhaled a breath he'd been holding for too long. He reached once more for the emergency signal, this time without hesitation. A muted click sounded as he activated the alert they had been warned to use only under extreme circumstances. Several regulars exchanged looks of disbelief. Somebody whispered, "She's been undercover this whole time." Another muttered, "Holy hell, she fooled all of us." Lena didn't look away from the biker. "You didn't just pick the wrong woman to mess with," she said softly, dangerously. "You picked the one who's been watching your gang for 6 months." The biker's breath hitched. Something in his expression cracked. Fear, regret, realization, before he lunged backward, knocking over his chair in a desperate, stupid instinct to flee. He didn't make it 2 steps. The bar door slammed open. And suddenly, he wasn't the only dangerous man in the room anymore. The biker's attempt to bolt ended the moment the front door exploded open with a thunderous crash. The hinges rattled, the lights flickered, and in swept 4 figures moving with the precision of a trained strike team. They weren't wearing uniforms. They didn't need them. Plain clothes, jeans, jackets, neutral tones, but their posture, their clipped movements, the hard focus in their eyes told everyone exactly who they were. Each agent held a badge in one hand and a weapon in the other, angled low but ready. "Federal agents," the lead agent barked, voice booming through the bar. Nobody moved. The biker skidded to a stop, his boots screeching against the wooden floor. His hands shot up instinctively as one agent swung behind him, another approaching from the side. The once dominant giant now looked very small between 4 determined, armed officers. Lena stood still, breathing slow, watching everything with a steady gaze she hadn't allowed herself to show for months. The lead agent, a tall, sharp-eyed woman with her hair tied back, locked eyes with Lena and gave a short, approving nod. "You good, Torres?" she asked. Lena nodded. He made his move. "Yeah," the agent muttered, eyeing the torn shirt and the badge exposed beneath it. "I can see that." 2 agents seized the biker, gripping his shoulders and forcing him over a table. A third snapped cold metal cuffs around his wrists so tightly he winced. Gone was the smug, arrogant swagger. Now he trembled with the shock of someone who realized too late that his instincts had betrayed him. "You are under arrest," one agent recited, "for assaulting a federal officer, interfering with an active investigation, and suspected involvement in the Viper gang's interstate trafficking operations." The biker's protest sputtered into the stale air. I didn't know. She was just a..." The female agent cut him off sharply. "Yeah, you should have walked away." Sam the bartender leaned against the counter, shaking his head in disbelief. "All this time," he murmured. "You were one of them." Lena managed a tired smile, pulling the ripped edges of her shirt closed. "Not exactly one of them. But close enough." The bar stayed frozen, the patrons looking between the biker being dragged out and the woman they'd known as the quiet, polite waitress who carried trays with steady hands and never caused trouble. Now they saw her differently. In her eyes, there wasn't fear, only relief, exhaustion, and a flicker of triumph she'd kept buried for months. As the agents escorted the biker toward the exit, he cast one last look at Lena, a mixture of anger, confusion, and something much closer to respect. She didn't look away. When the door slammed shut behind them, the bar stayed silent for several long beats. Finally, someone whispered, awestruck, "Damn, she was the bravest person in here the whole time." Lena let out a slow, heavy breath. And for the first time in months, she finally felt safe.